So Lamont Cheaterson has tested positive to synthetic testosterone. He was taking synthetic testosterone pellets before the first Amir Khan fight. Well, first and foremost, let's just forget about his victory in the first fight. Let's just dismiss it. Because even if Lamont Cheaterson took that substance, those pellets, without realizing that it was a banned substance, he still had an unfair advantage whether he realized it or not. You understand? So let's just get that out of the way first and foremost. Forget about his victory against Khan. He had an unfair advantage and that's it. You understand? But moving on from that, did Lamont Cheaterson realize he was juicing? Because apparently these testosterone pellets are a prescription drug. You understand? It's not like he, went to some shady character who's stirring up some special chemical concoction in his bathtub, you know what I mean, and injected it into people intravenously with dirty needles, you know what I mean, down dark alleyways. That's not the case. You understand? This substance that Cheaterson has taken is a prescription drug, you know what I mean? And obviously, certain prescription drugs are going to be banned, right? Obviously, we know that, but people do have to take prescription drugs from time to time, and that can cause people to test positive, you know what I mean, unknowingly. They might think that they're just taking a medication that a doctor gave them, and then they turn up for the fight and they have positive tests or whatever when they get tested. So I'm not gonna chastise and vilify Lamont Cheaterson just now, right now, because like I said, there are other circumstances whereby a guy could test positive without knowing. You understand? I mean, synthetic testosterone, I'm guessing, may be prescribed for someone who's trying to overcome a muscle injury or something like that. You get me? I'm no expert on, PEDs and stuff like that, but anyone out there who knows more about the subject, you let me know. But yeah, so I'm not gonna vilify Lamont Cheaterson just yet. You understand? Because we don't know the full circumstances. At least I don't know. If anyone knows more information than me, please let me know. But until I hear more information about it, then you get me, I'm not gonna go in on Lamont Cheaterson right now. You understand? Because he might not even know what the hell he was using. You get me? There is occasions when people, fighters take certain supplements and this, that, and the other, and they don't know what the hell's in the supplement. They just think it's a normal training supplement. Like, for example, Roy Jones in the 90s or the late early 2000s, I can't remember now, he fought a guy called Richard Hall at light heavyweight, and both guys tested positive on the same night for the same substance. It was a training supplement called Ripped Fuel, right? Which, as far as I'm aware, is it's a supplement, a training supplement which you take as a powder. You understand? It's a powder which you mix in to water or whatever, water or milk, and you ingest it like a drink. You understand? It's a product which you can buy legally. It's not some, like I said, some concoction that some guy has cooked up in his bathtub. This is like, a product you can buy online or whatever, whatever the case may be. But anyway, both Roy Jones Jr. and Richard Hall tested positive. And this is back in the days before there was Olympic style testing or anything like that. This is just a normal, state commission testing. And both of these guys tested positive on the same night for the same substance. Richard Hall had something like 10 times the amount of testosterone which is legally allowed in his system on that night. Roy Jones had something like 4 times the amount, you're legally allowed to have. And, Jones claims that, he was taking it to recover from an injury. You know what I mean? That a doctor or a nutritionist had recommended it to him and they said, take this supplement, just mix it with water and drink it and it will help you recover quicker from the injury. You know what I mean? That's what he claims. And obviously, to be fair to Roy, he'd never tested positive. He'd been tested many times for fights before that and after that, and he'd never had a positive before. You know what I mean? But that particular time, against that particular opponent, he tested positive, for this substance which is supposed to be banned, this Ripped Fuel substance, and his opponent did as well on the same night. So were both guys juicing, or was it a case where there was a particular training supplement on the market which the fighters were ignorant about and they didn't realize that it was a banned substance? Or maybe they thought, it was a banned substance which hadn't been banned, you know what I mean? Maybe they thought, okay, this thing does work and you can get an advantage, but as far as they were aware, it wasn't banned. I don't know, you know what I mean? Make of that what you will. But as much as people are going to want to, vilify and take shots at Lamont Cheaterson right now, it might not be as straightforward as we think. Don't get it twisted. I think there is guys who genuinely are just straight up juicing in boxing, and they know what they're doing, and they know they're getting an advantage from it, and they're just straight cheating. You understand? I realize that there's a lot of that in boxing, and it has been for years. You understand? I mean, the amount of boxers who have had suspicion around them in terms of, performance enhancing drugs, from, James Toney, Vitaly Klitschko early in his boxing career. Obviously, Tommy Morrison came out and openly admitted he was intravenously injecting steroids for most of his boxing career. Even Mike Tyson had, suspicions around him in terms of performance enhancing drugs. Holyfield, like I said, even Lennox Lewis. Back in the days, there was suspicion that Lennox Lewis had taken HGH, human growth hormone, early in his career. So there's so much suspicion around a lot of fighters, you understand, over the years. Obviously, these days, Manny Pacquiao, there's a lot of suspicion around him. I had my own suspicions about Victor Ortiz being on performance-enhancing drugs, you get me, for my own reasons, which I've talked about in a previous video. Who else is there now? I know Slideways 100 has been saying for a while that, he's got his suspicions that Bernard Hopkins might be on something, you know what I mean? The fact that he's like 46 or 47 years old and he's still going, Slideways has had his suspicions that, Bernard might be on something, you understand? So, this drug use seems to be rampant in boxing, not just in boxing, but in sport in general. How many times have you seen guys, athletes, people that do track and field, different sports, MMA, all types of people getting caught for this drug use, you understand? So it's obviously a very widespread thing. And to me, there's no one who's above suspicion. You understand? No one. I mean, I know Floyd Mayweather's been doing a great job, to be honest. He's been like the ambassador for pushing this Olympic-style drug testing, which they should have. You understand? They should have the Olympic-style drug testing for all fights. No question about that. But, even Floyd, I mean, someone commented on one of my videos and they said that apparently Floyd, the company who does this Olympic-style drug testing, which Floyd is pushing, apparently has very, very close links to the Mayweather camp themselves. You understand? And they had some kind of conspiracy theory that Mayweather's whole deal with this drug testing is so if an opponent beats him, he would then, with his close links to this drug testing company, he would then have their blood tainted with some type of substance, you know what I mean? So that he could discredit their victory afterwards. I'm not saying I agree with that, you know what I mean? But it seems like boxing is such a shady sport that literally anything is possible. I mean, I remember one time years and years ago when I was living in a shared flat or a shared apartment for those in the States. Yeah, we call an apartment a flat. I was living in a shared accommodation anyway, and we got burgled one time. And when I came home, realized I've been burgled, this, that, and the other. And one of the girls who lived there, she was going around accusing everyone of, saying, oh, this had to be an inside job. The way how the burglary went down, it had to be an inside job, and she was, accusing all of us and saying, oh my God, who was it? It was someone in this house has arranged this situation. Well, anyway, it turns out that she, the one doing all the accusing, actually turned out to be the person who was behind the burglary. So literally no one, for me personally, is beyond suspicion. Although, the person who I'd least suspect in boxing is Floyd Mayweather, you know what I mean? Like, it would be, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he could be, guilty or something like that. But in terms of all boxers right now, he would be the one who I suspect the least, right? Because he is pushing the way for this Olympic style, drug testing. But like I said, anything is possible, man. When money is involved, people can manipulate a situation and make it look like, whatever they want the truth to be is the truth. You understand? Even when it's a lie. So I don't know, man. I just think the sport, and not just boxing, sport in general is just rampant with drugs, man. And I think that, rather than Mayweather having to do it, I think that the commissions should introduce Olympic style drug testing. You know what I mean? Like, rather than boxers doing it, because a boxer doing it leaves it open for it leaves it more open for some type of manipulation or corruption. You understand? I think the boxing commissions themselves should be introducing the Olympic style drug testing. You know what I mean? And like I said, even with the standard testing, right, without the Olympic style drug testing, boxers do still get caught. You understand? It's not like no one's getting caught. You understand? Boxers do still get caught for performance enhancing drugs, even without the random drug tests. You understand? And they've been getting caught long time. You understand? From back in the 90s and before that. You get what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, it's a big problem in boxing, like it is in all sports. But the jury's out for me on how much, we need to go in on Lamont Cheaterson just now. You get me? Let's let all the facts come out and see if there is any mitigating circumstances. You get me? Let's just, me personally, if anyone else wants to go in on Cheaterson now, hey, that's you. You get me? Like that's not for me to tell you, not to go in on the guy. You might think he's guilty straight. You get me? For your reasons, you might have different information than me. But for me personally, I'm gonna hold back for now on completely going in on Cheaterson. You get me? So yeah, let me know what you lot think in the comment section below. Are you gonna go in on Cheaterson? Do you think he's just, the devil himself, or what is it? You know what I mean? Like, do you think they should give Khan his belts back? You get me? Me personally, I think they have to give him his belts back, regardless. You get me? They have to give him his belts back, man. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you lot think in the comment section below. This is Hatman. I'm out.